I don't know what I was expecting this game to be, but it was something. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc was originally released on the PlayStation Portable back in 2010, but over time came to other devices. For example, the Steam port came out just last year, and I just happened to receive the game around the end of 2016. The game begins with Makoto Naegi giving a description of Hope's Peak Academy, the high school he's going to be attending. Hope's Peak Academy is a school that only accepts people that are the best at what they do, like a sports player or some kind of other celebrity, really. However, Makoto is accepted by pretty much just luck, since he didn't have any specific skill or hobby that he was really good at. He's what he calls pretty much average. Everything seems fine when he reaches the front entrance of the school, but not long after entering, he loses consciousness. He later wakes up in a classroom and looks around trying to figure out what's going on. Probably the most interesting part of the classroom is that all of the windows are covered with metal that cannot be removed. This is when the player must look around the room and examine what they see in there. Once Makoto is done with the room, he heads back for the front entrance where he meets everyone else. Kiyotaka Ishimaru, the ultimate moral compass, Toku Fukawa, the ultimate writing prodigy, Sayaka Maizono, the ultimate pop sensation, Leon Kuwata, the ultimate baseball star, Hifumi Yamada, the ultimate fanfic creator, Aoi Asahina, the ultimate swimming pro, Chihiro Fujisaki, the ultimate programmer, Kyoko Kirigiri, the ultimate triple question mark, Junko Enoshima, the ultimate fashionista, Mondo Owada, the ultimate biker gang leader, Sakura Ogami, the ultimate martial artist, Byakuya Tagami, the ultimate affluent progeny, Yasuhiro Hagakure, the ultimate clairvoyant, and Celestia Ludenberg, the ultimate gambler. Sometime after the introductions, everyone heads for the gym where they meet Monokuma, a remotely controlled bear that sets up what's known as the killing game. The whole point is to get the students to try to murder each other, because if one of them can do it without getting caught, they graduate and everyone else gets executed. If they do get caught, they'll be the ones getting executed. I always knew that school was a cruel, evil place. At this point, everyone starts wondering who they can and who they cannot trust. Not long after, everyone takes some time to figure out and get used to the new setting, and after a full day of dealing with their new situation, everyone goes to bed for the night. Thankfully, they still know what time of the day it is, and Monokuma gives announcements on when it's daytime and when it's nighttime. The next day, the player is introduced to free time. During these points in the game, the player can explore Hope's Peak Academy, look for monocoins, which can be exchanged for gifts and other unlockable items later on, or they can spend some time with the other students, which they can give gifts to if they want, which will unlock skills they can use in class trials later on. However, what they won't know is which one of them is going to kill or be killed later on. Unsurprisingly, someone does end up dying. When someone dies, Makoto will investigate the murder. Every piece of evidence he collects is called a truth bullet, which he'll use in a class trial later on. In class trials, the characters in the game will give their arguments on who they think is responsible for the murder and try to reach a conclusion. However, if they're wrong, everyone besides the true killer gets executed. If they get it right, only the killer gets executed. When that happens, everyone else is forced to watch the execution. During these trials, there are several gameplay elements, some decent and some really terrible. First of all, there's non-stop debates where you go around all of the stands shooting truth bullets at statements. At first, you're only holding on to one truth bullet at a time, but it eventually reaches up to 5. You have to decide which one to use and on which statement. You can also choose one statement and use it against another statement. Later on in the game, there will be these lines of dialogue called white noise, which get in the way. Destroying them will give you more time on the time limit that you need to pay attention to on any of these gameplay elements. Well, if you're not an idiot, you won't really have to worry, because a lot of these, you won't really have to think too hard. Next, there's Hangmans Gambit, where Makoto will have to think of a word. A few letters will already be filled in, and based off of that, the player has to figure out what word to spell out, which you add to by shooting at letters that are floating around. When you get closer to the end of the trial, and sometimes earlier in certain cases, there is something called Bullet Time Battle. First time I got to it, I didn't know what to do. What you do is press on to statements and log onto them by using the dots that go by so that you can destroy them. Later in the game, opponents can make it so you can't see any of the dots going by, making it nearly impossible to do. Going by the sound of the music doesn't help at all, by the way. You can react to your opponents doing this by using a special move that lets you see everything again, but everything's moving faster. Unfortunately, this move is limited. Bullet time battles are a huge pain in the ass and really shouldn't even be in the game. Once you do manage to do it, you have to figure out which truth bullet to use on their statement, and if you get it wrong, you start all over again. The last element is usually around the end of the case too. You must organize events in the order that they happened, by dragging them into open spots in these comic-style visuals. It's actually a pretty good way to recap what everyone knows about the case. After the first case is done, the killer is caught and executed. Then the survivors continue to explore Hope's Peak Academy and try to figure out how to get out of the building. Between cases, there are several free time events and some moments to explore new floors. There are 6 cases in the game total, some more enjoyable than others. Honestly, the more I played this game, the less I understood it. I kept coming up with my own theories of what was going on based off evidence the game was giving me, but my biggest theory was proven wrong. I had theories for parts of the game that weren't as huge, like who one of the killers was. Getting further was interesting because a lot of the personalities I had gotten used to being around started to drop, and it got to a point where even I was hoping no more of the students would murder each other. Near the end, it got to a point where things made even less sense. It's all related to the one responsible for putting the students in this situation, at least to some poorly written and dull final moments in the game. Another issue is the characters in the game. Most aren't even interesting enough to care about when they die. Even the cases aren't way too interesting. Not only that, but the game ends without clearing everything up. Fortunately, some of the plot points are cleared up in later games and in anime, although it really could have been done better. Even with some problems in the cases, Danganronpa was still an enjoyable game for me. With stuff like spending time with other students and finding monocoins, the Danganronpa games definitely have more replay value than the Ace Attorney games do. Danganronpa definitely deserves to be called a good game in my opinion, unlike another M-rated game I know of. Honestly, I have no problem with the rating or how it received that rating. With how much swearing and sex jokes there are in the game, it's kinda hard to forget that the game has an M rating. However, I feel like it works when you consider that the characters are high school students. I graduated from high school somewhat recently, and I remember lots of swearing and sex jokes during my time there. While Danganronpa has some flaws and not too many interesting characters, it's definitely a fun game that is worth playing. I honestly didn't want to stop playing in my first playthrough. The visuals work well for Danganronpa, and I think it looks really nice. The game's soundtrack was pretty good too. I think I've said stuff like this on just about every game I've covered. That's all for this video. If you liked what you saw, how about subscribing, liking, adding to your favorites, commenting, and whatever else you can do. You can also check out some of my other videos or check out my social media accounts, which I've provided links to in the description.